This is the CBS Morning News for Tuesday, the 23rd of March. Good morning, everyone. I'm Monica Gayle.
And I'm John Roberts. Here are today's top stories. The Russian court delivers a mixed ruling on the fate of Boris Yeltsin.
Cleveland Indians ace Steve Olin died in a speedboat accident that injured two teammates.
The Crying Game wins for Best Original Screenplay at the Writers Guild Awards.
On today's weather map, heavy rain and 40-degree temperatures will cause a lot of snow to melt in western Pennsylvania and New York. Flash flooding is possible over the next few days.
Russian President Boris Yeltsin is hanging on to the reins of power this morning after apparently winning part of an important court decision. Jonathan Sanders is standing by in Moscow with the latest. Jonathan?
Good morning, John. The court met throughout the night and it emerged with a decision that kind of slapped Yeltsin on the wrist but gave him a lot of room to maneuver. The court said that his decree that he would rule for the next 5 weeks by special decree was unconstitutional, but it did not find an impeachable offense, and it said that they could go ahead with the referendum. So the crisis here has eased, but it's not over.
The Constitutional Court has ruled against Yeltsin before. Last fall, it overturned the president's ban on the Communist Party. But the justices did not totally oppose the president on that important political issue. The court allowed Yeltsin to dismantle part of the Communist Party, but said he went too far against the Constitution with a blanket prohibition. Democratic activists rallied last night in support of Yeltsin's call for an April 25th referendum on a new constitution. Yeltsin is remaining out of sight in the Kremlin. He did issue a decree on press freedom, warning against political interference in newspapers, television, and radio. Of particular concern is the newspaper Izvestia, which the anti-Yeltsin parliament has been trying to take over. Television, by far the prime source of news here, is now under presidential protection.
And Yeltsin went further in extending his authority today. This morning he signed a special decree telling officials out in the countryside that if they didn't listen to what the government said, if they tried to stop the referendum, they were going to lose their jobs. Yeltsin sending a message to people down the chain of command, but with a power struggle going on in Moscow, it's hard to tell if those out in the countryside who are feeling more freedom will really listen to President Yeltsin. John?
Jonathan, if Congress now apparently has no legal basis upon which to impeach Mr. Yeltsin, what do you expect will be the next phase in this political challenge?
I think that they're going to attack Yeltsin's additional points of his decree, saying that he wanted to privatize land. I think they're going to keep up agitating against Yeltsin. I think they're going to try any way possible to undercut his legitimacy. Maybe they'll try and interfere with the referendum. Mr. Khasbulatov holds a press conference later today. We'll get a sense after that.
Jonathan Sanders reporting live from Moscow. Thanks.
Secretary of State Warren Christopher will be briefed on the crisis today by Russia's foreign minister. In a speech in Chicago yesterday, Christopher reiterated American concern that the situation be resolved peacefully.
If Russia falls into anarchy or lurches back to despotism, the price that we pay could be frightening. Nothing less is involved in the possibility of renewed nuclear threat, higher defense budgets, spreading instability, the loss of new markets, and a devastating setback for the worldwide democratic movement.
President Clinton had no comment on the crisis when he returned to Washington last night. He had been in Little Rock visiting his father-in-law, who suffered a stroke. Mr. Clinton will field questions about Russia, among other things, during his first official presidential news conference today. CBS News will broadcast the news conference live beginning at 1 p.m. Eastern Time.
The crisis in Russia has again raised the question of what happens if that country falls back under hardline communist rule. David Martin has been looking into White House fears about that.
The Clinton administration contends helping Boris Yeltsin now is a bargain compared to the cost of once again having to defend against the Soviet military threat if the hardliners return to power. It sounds compelling. Millions in aid now could save billions on defense later. But the reality is that today's Russian military is not a sleeping giant, but a Humpty Dumpty.
The notion that the Soviet threat, the way we used to know it during the Cold War, could somehow come back even if the most ardent, hardline communists regain power in Russia is absolutely ludicrous.
According to Meyer, one of the few experts who keeps track of the Russian military, the threat which once faced the U.S. and its NATO allies has not just diminished, it's vanished.
The entire Warsaw Pact is gone. All of Eastern Europe is now part essentially of a new Central European political system, and certainly there'll be no possibility for any Russian government to bring all those countries back in.
Gone, too, are former Soviet republics where important defense installations were located. Factories that once produced 1,000 tanks a year now turn out fewer than 100 and can't be cranked up again.
The Russian military and the Russian military defense industrial establishment is in complete collapse.
There is one exception, and that's nuclear weapons. With or without Boris Yeltsin, Russia will continue to have thousands of nuclear weapons, and the U.S. will have to defend against that threat no matter who rules in Moscow. David Martin, CBS News, the Pentagon.
Cleveland Indians pitcher Steve Olin, taking a fishing break from spring training, has been killed in a boating accident. 2 other players were injured. Shepard Smith of WCPX-TV in Orlando reports.
Look at Steve Olin was the Cleveland Indians' key reliever, led the team in saves the past 2 years. Investigators say he died almost instantly when the boat he was riding in crashed into a dock on Little Lake Nellie near the Indian Spring Training Center at Winter Haven, Florida. He was the father of 3, including twins born last March, the first major leaguer killed in an accident since 1979. 11-year veteran Bob Ojeda was also on the boat. He's at a nearby hospital recovering after surgery. He's listed as semi-conscious in serious but stable condition. Indians pitcher Tim Cruz was on the boat as well. A Tampa native, sources say he organized the trip on the Indians' only day off from training this week. Right now, Cruz is in very critical condition at a Central Florida trauma center. The accident happened just after 7:30 last night. Investigators will say only that the waters on the lake were very high, that the boat dock was not lit, and that the incident appears to be nothing more than a very tragic accident. Shepard Smith for CBS News, Orlando.
Money editor John Stair is on assignment today, so I'll handle the business news for you this morning. Millions of flyers will be getting discount travel coupons or even cash after yesterday's settlement of a class action lawsuit against 9 major U.S. airlines. The air carriers had been charged with price fixing by computer. 2 fairly new reasons and 1 old one are causing stress in the global workplace, according to a United Nations report. The study says electronic eavesdropping by employers, the pressure of keeping up with machines, and low pay for long hours are stressing out workers. Checking the financial markets this morning, stocks were higher in London in early trading today. In Tokyo, stocks retreated overnight. The Nikkei index lost nearly 300 points, or more than 1.5%. On Wall Street, the Dow Jones Industrials begin the day standing at 3463.48. The Dow was down just over 8 points in relatively moderate trading yesterday. The broader S&P 500 index lost over 1.25 points to finish at 448.88. The Big Board Composite Index closed at 247.34. That's down more than 3/4 of 1 point. More stocks fell than rose. 691 issues advanced, but 1,199 declined. Over-the-counter stocks took it on the chin. The NASDAQ Composite Index finished the day at 676.62, falling more than 6 points. Bonds traded narrowly. 30-year Treasuries gained 4 ticks in late trading. That pushed the yield down to 6.80%. And gold opened in London at $332.15 an ounce. That's down 75 cents from yesterday's closing price in New York. And that's this morning's business news.
Coming up, we'll take a look at the nation's weather forecast.
And in Los Angeles, a key defense witness is back on the stand in the federal police beating trial.
This portion of the CBS Morning News was sponsored by Mountain Grown Folgers Coffee, the best part of waking up.
She finished school and moved back home. Will you be close now that she's all grown? Folgers starting to brew. Was she up ahead of you?
The remarkable aroma of Mountain Grown Folgers. It really does open your eyes.
Now you see her in a different way. It's the start of a brand new day.
You're pretty good at this.
Yes, I do take after you.
The best part of waking up is Folgers in your cup.
How do you add rich, full flavor with no fat, no cholesterol, and very little sodium? The original way. Lee and Perrins, the original Worcestershire.
At BASF, we help make carpet you can work with.
Good night.
And carpet you can live with.
Honey, I'm home.
At BASF, we don't make the carpet, we make it better.
2 coffees and a sweet and low.
And now what?
They want a coffee and a sweet and a low.
They're never gonna leave.
I fix it.
Oh, Salamia.
We asked for sweet and low.
I'm so sorry. This is all we got.
Well, then we're leaving.
So soon.
Sweet and low. For millions of people, there's just no equal.
Spring, Easter, what a great time to visit MJ Designs.
Yeah, that store really brings out the kid in you.
That's right, little bunny buddy. Ever seen an Easter tree?
I didn't know candy grew on trees.
It does at MJ Designs. I got this 3-footer for only $4.99. Put the decorations on it myself.
Wow, you are so talented. Where'd you get the kid?
Oh, these Jellybird eggs. They were only 2 bags for 99 cents.
That's a great price if we don't eat them all first.
Honey, who are you talking to?
No one.
No one. That was close.
There was no apparent progress overnight towards ending the cult standoff in Texas, which is now entering its 24th day. Yesterday, 8 cult members who left the compound over the weekend were arraigned in federal court. They are being held as witnesses to the shootout that started the siege. In New York, Woody Allen says he, quote, screwed up when he began an affair with Mia Farrow's oldest daughter, 22-year-old Suni Previn. Allen was back on the witness stand yesterday in his bitter custody dispute with Farrow. He said he had an affair with Previn because his relationship with Farrow had become, quote, joyless and sexless. Testimony resumes today.
In Los Angeles, the federal police beating trial continues today with more cross-examination of a key witness for the defense. Bill Whitaker reports.
In his second day of testimony, use of force expert Sergeant Charles Duke said Los Angeles police are trained to beat combative suspects into submission. If it takes 1,000 baton blows, then that's what it takes, the defense witness asserted. Sergeant Duke said throughout the videotaped beating, Rodney King was aggressive and combative, that every baton blow and kick by police was reasonable and necessary. Duke said most Los Angeles police officers had not been trained in the so-called swarm technique, in which a group of officers pounce on a suspect, directly refuting previous testimony by a witness for the prosecution. But federal prosecutor Stephen Clymer, in a bulldog-like cross-examination, attacked Duke's assertion that Rodney King, on the ground, represented a threat to the baton-wielding officers. Then Clymer introduced documents showing that L.A. police reported using the swarm technique 842 times in the 2 years preceding the arrest of Rodney King, challenging Duke's claim that the technique is not commonly known or used. Court observers say prosecutors are working hard to chip away at Duke's testimony.
What they're trying to do to this expert in cross-examination is to show that he comes into this situation with a pre-mindset, that he's looking for ways to justify the blows by the officers, instead of standing back and saying, under the policy, were these officers really justified?
Duke has been the strongest witness for the defense so far. His testimony is expected to be bolstered when defendant Sergeant Stacy Kuhn takes the stand later this week. By all accounts, Kuhn was the most convincing of the 2 defendants who testified in the state trial in Simi Valley. Bill Whitaker, CBS News, Los Angeles.
Turning now to the national weather forecast, the latest satellite picture shows clouds extending from the lower Midwest to the southeast coastline, but skies over New England remain clear. The Rockies and the Southwest are also cloud-free, while skies are gray from northern California to the Canadian border. Later today, more heavy rain will soak the northwest. It's going to turn balmy across the northern Rockies and western high plains, where the mercury should climb into the 70s. Elsewhere, thunderstorms will rumble along the Gulf Coast, and it should be rainy from the Carolinas to the eastern Great Lakes. That's the national forecast. Now here's a look at your weather. New York, mostly cloudy and 43 degrees. Chicago, drizzle and 40. Miami, afternoon showers and 79. Sunny and 67 in Dallas. Sunny and 73 in Denver. And Los Angeles, also sunny and 70 degrees. There's still more than a foot of snow on the ground in western New York and Pennsylvania, where heavy rain is now expected, so the threat of river flooding will increase over the next few days.
I'd like to see some of those Midwest temperatures come here one of these days. Casting a shadow over sports news this morning is the boating accident involving 3 Cleveland Indians pitchers looking for some relaxation on their only scheduled day off during spring training. 27-year-old Steve Olin was killed in the accident, the first active major leaguer killed since 1979, when New York Yankee catcher Thurman Munson died in a plane crash. Olin was 3rd on the Indians' all-time saves list. Bob Ojeda and Tim Cruz came to the Indians as free agents this year after pitching for the Los Angeles Dodgers. Ojeda underwent surgery for head lacerations and should make a full recovery. Cruz suffered a damaged lung and what is described as a serious head injury.
A professional boxer is in critical condition at a New Jersey hospital with a blood clot on his brain. Sergei Artemyev lost a lightweight title fight to Carl Griffith in Atlantic City Sunday night. The fight was stopped in the 10th round because of a cut under his right eye. Artemyev underwent surgery that night to drain the clot. A coma was induced to keep him still, but he acknowledged his wife and trainer in the hospital by squeezing their hands. The NFL awarded the 1996 Super Bowl to Phoenix. Arizona voters approved the observance of Martin Luther King Day last fall after January's Super Bowl was moved out of Phoenix. Defensive lineman Reggie White still has not decided where he will play next year. White, his agent, and the New York Jets denied reports that he agreed to a deal with the Jets. One free agent did find a new team. Wide receiver Gary Clark joined the Phoenix Cardinals. The four-time Pro Bowler signed a 3-year deal worth $6 million. Hawaii Pacific won college basketball's oldest national postseason tournament, the 56-year-old NAIA. The Sea Warriors took an 83-75.
45 degrees with east